most of you, some of you already know, I didn't come up in a home where we went to church on Sunday. Now, I know my mom and dad loved us. I mean, that went without a doubt. But,
Right.
you know, my dad wasn't really what you say, a church-going man. My mom wasn't a church-going woman.
Yeah.
We come up kind of poor. You know, it was what it was. Funny thing is, coming up, I didn't know we had it bad. You know, I really didn't. I mean, till I got in school and, you know, started getting around other kids my age and stuff, I didn't realize how bad we had it. I mean, I really didn't. It wasn't awful. Just as a young kid, I was around a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have been around.
Yeah.
I come up in an environment that, you know, most kids shouldn't come up in involved. And I say by the time I was 12, 13, I guess maybe 14, I had done seen and done, you know, stuff that most people hadn't until they was probably 20, 25 years old. But like I said, I knew my mom and dad loved me.
Yeah.
I wasn't so sure about my sister Tina back there. She used to beat me up pretty bad. Gave me my first black eye. Anyway, I got in church. I run across a guy named Red Hefner when I was probably in my late 20s. I was 27, 28. Red was a pastor. I didn't know it at the time, but I worked around him on a lot of jobs. I did the brickwork and stuff for some of the same contractors. He did the boxing and side and stuff for him. Anyway, Red invited me to church a couple times, and you know, I just told him, I said, Red, you don't want me to come to church with you. If I walk in, I was probably gonna catch on fire. You know, just like that. I mean, that's, you know, the way I looked at it. But he kept on. He didn't give up. You know, he kept on inviting me. He didn't push me or nothing, but he just kept saying, hey, when you coming, you know. And finally, I told him one day, I said, Red, I like to drink my beer when I take a notion. You know, I smoke cigarettes. I do whatever I want to do when I get ready to do it. I was a grown man, you know, and full of pride and just stubborn, hard-headed. But he told me, he said, well, he says, like this, Brother Joe. He said, you fish, don't you? I said, well, yeah, I do. He said, well, you gotta catch a fish before you clean it, right? And I said, well, yeah.
That's true.
I mean, everybody knows that. He said, well, he said, coming to the Lord the same way, in a sense. He said, you know, it's my job as a pastor to invite you, get you to, you know, come and have service with us.
Yeah.
He said, but if God wants to do something with you, that's up to him.
That's right.
You know.
That's right.
He said, I can't judge you or tell you right or wrong about what you do or whatever.
Yeah.
I had known Brother Red long before I met him. I mean, heard stories, you know, in the circle kind of people I hung out with. And he had one time been a pretty rough fellow.
Yeah.
And I got to thinking about it, you know, I said, well, if God can do that for him, you know, then I ain't that bad a person. I mean, he can help me too, you know. But anyway, I ended up going to church with him, and a couple of months, I guess, I got saved.
Amen.
And it, you know, it changed my life
Yeah.
for the better right off the bat. You know, I had kids, had small kids, had a business.
Yeah.
Things started going really good there for a little while, a couple of years, and I guess I don't know how to explain it. I guess I got saved. I knew I was,
Yeah.
but my flesh still had a hold of me pretty good. You know, I was a young man. I was,
Yeah.
you know, 29, 30 years old, and it's hard, you know. And I tell people that all the time.
Yeah.
You know, at that age, I mean, you still going to fight your flesh, and which I do now.
We'll find it now. Yeah.
But I wasn't far enough along in the walk, I guess, and I started backsliding. And the devil, I know for a fact, from my own personal experience, the devil will take whatever is your weakest point, you know, whether it be
Yeah.
money or drugs or alcohol or whatever. He'll take whatever you're the weakest at and he'll put it right in front of you and just dangle it like this. You know. And that's kind of what it did to me, and I got away from God. And I realize now, looking back, when I done that, that's when my life started just, you know,
Yeah.
for lack of, I mean, well, I ain't gonna say that, it just started getting really bad. Years went by, and I just, you know, I lived however I wanted to. I didn't worry about it. I mean, I thought I was a pretty decent fellow. I helped folks when they needed, if I could. I mean, but I still did a lot of things that, you know, God don't want us doing. You know, I mean, that's just the way it was. I got to a point where my wife and I got divorced because I was an adulterer, I guess you'd say. Me and my wife got divorced, lost my family right there. I mean, my kids. And I had always been the kind, I thought I was, you know, a really awesome dad. I mean, I loved my kids. I spent plenty of time with them. I put them on the bus in the mornings, and took one to daycare. I mean, you know, did that for years. And, you know, I didn't realize the stuff I was doing when I got away from God was affecting a whole lot more than just me. And in my mind, I was saying, well, I ain't hurt nobody but myself. But, you know, I can look back now, you know, 15 years later, and I can see that, you know, it hurt a lot of people besides myself. And I went back and I kind of picked this up from what they call it, AA stuff. You know, you have to go back and apologize to everybody. I mean, I've never been in AA or nothing like that, but I knew that's part of that program. So I went back to, you know, the ones that I had affected in a bad way, and I apologized to them, you know, and to no avail. I mean, most of them right now tell you, well, just wait and he'll sleep again and be the same old dirty dog he ever was, you know. But I made a promise to God, I made a promise to myself, and not out loud to them, but I made a promise to my kids about 12 and a half, 13 years ago now, that I would never be that man again. You know, I didn't vow to get back in church or anything like that, but I did make a promise to God that I wouldn't be that person again. A couple of years went by, and I mean, it had ups and downs, and I ended up getting married again. Well, of course, I got divorced again. And by that time, I just figured, you know, I wasn't meant to be married to nobody. I wasn't a good husband, whatever. But the problem was I wasn't picking them. I mean, I wasn't letting God pick them. I was picking them myself. And ultimately, that's all it was. I mean, I've messed around and heard about Jimmy's late husband passing. He and I were like brothers at one time. We were young. Well, it had been several months, probably about 6 months since he had passed, and I didn't know anything about it because I hadn't seen anybody. And I said, well, I'm going to ride by and see Jimmy and pay my condolences, you know, and I did. And we kind of started communicating a little bit as friends, and, you know, it's funny, she'd go out, she would go on dates that her sister would set her up on, and she'd bring Chris by my house, and he'd hang out at the house with me and my girls, and she would go to restaurants, and, you know, when she'd go in, she'd order food while they was waiting, she'd come outside and tell me about her day, how it was going and all that stuff. I didn't realize it then, but God was setting somebody in my path that was going to, in a sense, help me get closer to Him. As y'all know, Jimmy's mom and dad back there, they've been members of this church from day one, I believe. Jim's been one of the, if not the biggest influence on me that I've ever had as far as a father figure. I've watched him over the last 11 years live according to his faith, and I watched God bless him over and over, you know, because of that, and look after him and his kids, and me at times. And I thought, well, you know, there's got to be something more to this than what I'm seeing.
Amen.
You know, and there was. But anyway, me and Jimmy got to go and have coffee and stuff like that, and we started a relationship, and you know, I promised her I'd never be the man I used to be, because she knew all the bad things about me, and you know, probably knew some stuff that I didn't remember. But she decided to take a chance on me, and so I said, you know what, I think that's what God wants for me. And so, you know, we ended up getting serious and everything, but it's probably one of the best things that ever happened to me. being with her, I got to know her dad better. I got to talking to him more, and he was always talking to me about the Bible and about God and about what he can do for us,
Yeah.
you know, if we just let him. And I've always been probably one of the most stubborn, hard-headed people you'd ever know. I mean, y'all agree a little too quick. But anyway, yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Well, they know me. But anyway, the more Pop talked to me about it, and Jimmy knows the Bible really well. I mean, she does. And we talk, and we'd read the Bible sometimes, stuff like that. And I just, it got to sinking in more and more. And I'll be honest with all of you. I've never been one to hide anything from anybody. I've always been who I am, like it or not. I mean, take it or leave it. I was put on prescription pain medicine about 3 years ago for my back. I've got some issues with my back from the type of work I do. And without me realizing, I became addicted to them.
Yeah.
And I had always prided myself on being one of the few people in my family that never had a problem with alcohol or any type of drugs or anything like that. Well, next thing you know, I find myself addicted to pain medication. And the turning point for me with that was one afternoon, I just lied like a dog to my wife and told her, I said, I got to go in and help a buddy of mine with the truck he's working on. I'll be back in a little while. And all it was, I had run out of my pain medicine about 2 days before then, and I was about to go crazy. Well, she knew I was lying. When I left, I knew she knew. But that stuff had a hold of me up here, and I went and did what I had to do, and I come back, I was okay. But when I came back, I told her, I said, look, I said, I lied to you. I said, something I promised you I'd never do, but I did anyway. And I told her, I said, that'll never happen again. I said, you are the one person who put your faith in me when nobody on this earth would have.
Yeah.
And she did. And it was all or nothing. I mean, she put her faith in me, and that was a turning point for me. I knew I needed to get my life straightened out. We talked a while, and a few weeks went by, and I told her, I said, the only way that I'm going to get straightened out, and I knew it because I knew my name, was God.
Yeah.
It wasn't long, I was fighting that stuff whenever we first started church up here. But I'm telling you, it didn't take but about, 2-3 weeks? Maybe a month?
Yeah.
I mean, I just felt God in this church,
Amen to that. I'm amen in that.
At one time, I used to go and play gospel music in nursing homes. And, there's a couple I went in, and you could just feel, the bad, evil, whatever you want to call it, in those places. Most of them you could feel a goodness,
Yeah.
And coming here and feeling that, I recognized it, I knew what it was, and I said, you know what, this is it right here. If I'm ever going to get straightened out, if I'm ever going to get back close to God, I got to do it right here.
Amen.
And I did. I got down on my knees right over here one morning, and I begged God. I said, you came into my life years ago and saved me and changed me. I said, but I let my flesh get the better of me, and I backslid, got away from you. I said, if you'll let me come back home, I said, I'll do everything in my power to make sure I stay there.
Praise the Lord. Yeah.
And I have, and God has been really, really good to me.
Yeah.
It amazes me sometimes how He has changed me in the way I feel about stuff. I mean, the way I think about stuff. My mama used to beat me with a belt or a drop cord or flip-flop, whatever she'd get her hands on, and it didn't change my mind one bit. I mean, I had it in my mind what I wanted to do, and that's what I did.
Yeah.
But God got a hold of me right over there one morning, and it's like nothing I'd ever known for in my life. And it's gotten progressively better every day.
Amen.
And sometimes it's hard for me to understand, it's hard for me to explain, but God's put something in my heart right here that I've never known before, It's like I want to tell everybody about it. you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I see strangers at the store, I'll invite them to church. I don't care. I don't care what color they are, I don't care how old they are.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, you know, if you invite them, they'll start talking to you, you know. And I've told them a little about my story, listen to theirs, you know, and they're like, man, God's really done a lot for you. And I said, yeah, He has.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if you give an opportunity, He'll do a lot for you too,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yes, He will.
But sometimes I get irritated, and I know I shouldn't, but, you know, you tell somebody, they'll be complaining about their problems, and, you know, they ain't making no money, or they can't pay their bills, or their car's tore up, or whatever. And I tell them, I said, you know, you don't realize even the little bitty stuff like that. If you asking the right person for help, you know, it'll come along.
Yeah.
But you can't do it on your own,
Right.
you know. And it took me a long time to realize that. I mean, and God is just so good when you try to tell people that, or you try to explain to them, you know, if you try to walk a little closer to them, He can help you out with anything you got, and they just like, well, I don't know, you want to thump them right between the eyes. I mean, because I tell them, I said, you know how I was 10 years ago, or, you know, 15 years ago, especially 20 years ago. I mean, I loved my kids, but other than that, I didn't care. I mean, you know, I'd never seen at that time the evidence of, you know, what God can do for us. And I sure hadn't felt it at that time.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's hard to explain. God puts a feeling in your heart that, you know, you just want to help everybody you can, you know, in their troubles. And, you know, you want to try to help them through witnessing to them about God and what He can do for you, you know. And I got a confession I got to make to Brother Ed. Years ago, I was bringing my stepson and stepdaughter at the time, Nikki and Tyler. I was bringing them up here to Awana's on Wednesday nights, and they enjoyed it. You know, they really liked it. I pulled up out there one evening, and Brother Ed came out there, and he was standing there opening the car door, and the kids got out, and he said, he knew me a little back then. He said, "Brother Joe, you want to come on in? I need some more heathens in there to preach to." And I looked at him, I said, "Well, it looked like you got plenty already." I mean, made me mad. That's how far out in the world I was and away from God. Kind of made me mad.
You let it bother you, didn't you?
Yeah, I said, that old so-and-so, I said, he don't know who he's talking to. I can get out and kick him in the hind end or something, you know? I mean, that's how awful I was. I mean, but, you know, since I've come to know him, he's been a real blessing to me. You know, he's always been a blessing to my family back there. But he's been a real, Brother Ed, you've been a real blessing to me. And I mean that, brother.
Amen.
Everybody here has. I mean, everybody here has been really, really welcoming, you know, to me and my family. Just, you know, it's been a really, really good thing, you know, to be here and to get to know all of you and to see what God does for those that follow Him and believe in Him, you know. And for somebody like me coming from where I came from, it's a big deal, you know. I mean, Jimmy came up in church, and that's a blessing right there.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes little stuff, she'll say, "Well, do you remember that old song we used to sing when we was kids in church?" And I say, "No," you know, because I didn't. You know, I didn't know what it was. But one other thing I wanted to tell you, not only have I seen what God can do for you, you know, how He can change it. It's not something I like talking about, but it's a way that, to me, I can relate. I mean, I can relate to people. You know, there's a good side and a bad side. There's a darkness and a light. I mean, I got a call one morning about 1:30, about 6 months ago, maybe 5 months ago. The little boy Tyler that I say, and I brought up here to Wallace, I raised him and his sister Nikki for about 2.5 years. And I love them kids. I mean, they just like mine. I love them now. I got a call from Tyler's sister Nikki saying that Tyler had shot himself. That threw my daughter's life into turmoil, my daughter Madison. And baby, I didn't want to bring that up, but I need to get this across to some people. They did not have God in their household whatsoever. And that's, at one time in my life, that's where I was. But if a person, if you don't believe what God can do for you, then at least hear this and know what the devil can do to you.
Yes, sir. That's a good statement.
Tyler, God had blessed me. I had been able to spend some time with him the last few weeks he was alive. He had worked with me probably 3-4 days a week. I got to see him every day, tell him I loved him every day. You know, listen to some of the stuff he wanted to talk to me about that bugged him, and you know, just vice versa. Just trying to be a somewhat of a father to him. He had promised to come to church with me. The Saturday night before he was supposed to come that Sunday morning, he got to drinking. He and his mom got in an argument and had some words or whatever, and he got a hold of a pistol somehow or another, and well, he shot himself. Nikki called me about 1:30 in the morning and told me what happened, and it just, you know, it caught me off guard.
Yeah.
I kind of didn't know what to think right there, you know. I mean, I didn't know what to say for a few minutes. I said, baby, let me call you back in a few minutes. Let me get woke up, and you know, I'll call you back in a few. I called her back about an hour later, and she was okay. And I told her, I said, baby, I said, you okay? She said, yeah. She said, I'm fine. I was kind of snoozing on the couch. I said, all right. I said, I'll be over there in just a little while. I said, let me get my thoughts together. I mean, I couldn't drive right then.
Yeah.
I remember sitting on my front porch and thinking about all that and praying. And I had already got into church here. Had already dedicated my life back to God. And, you know, like anybody, I had questions. I guess, you know, I didn't get mad at God about it because I knew, you know, there's a reason for everything. God has a plan no matter what happens.
Right.
No matter how bad you think it is, there's a reason for it somewhere. If you just wait and see what God's doing, you know. Anyway, I guess it got down to about 5 o'clock, and I said, well, I better get on over there. So I went over there. Nikki's there. She's just turned 18 years old. Her little brother Tristan, he's 10 years old. He was there. And thank God Madison had already moved in with me. Nikki, and I don't want to offend anybody or gross anybody out or whatever, Nikki asked me if I wanted to go into the bedroom and see where Tyler shot himself. And I said, no, baby. I said, you don't need to be in there. I said, they didn't, when the cops and the investigator came out, I said, they didn't clean that up. She said, no. And she said, I'll clean it up in a little while. I said, no, you are not. I mean, a 17-year-old kid, and she had already had to come up quicker than she should have. But I told her, I said, get me some pots and pans, something I put water in, and I'll go in there and clean it up. I prayed and I asked God. I told him, I said, I can't do this without you. You know, but I couldn't let that youngin do it. I couldn't let her little brother see it. And I can't believe, you know, the people that came over there didn't clean it up no way.
Right.
But anyway, for me to be where I was 6 months before then, and for God to hold my hand like he did, while I got in there and cleaned that stuff up off that floor, you know, that was a kid that I loved. I'd raised part of his life. But that right there showed me, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. I had called Tyler that night about 10 o'clock, 9:30. I said, what are you doing, boy? He said, well, I'm sitting here drinking my beer. I said, boy, put that mess up. I said, you're supposed to go to church with me in the morning. He said, well, I'm going. I promise, I'm going. I said, all right, I'll be there to get you about 9:30 or 10. He told me, he said, all right. And I said, well, I love you, boy. He said, well, I love you too. I'll see you in the morning. And that's the last words me and him spoke. And that was a blessing to me right there, you know, looking back now. I mean, anyway, Lord held my hand through that.
Yeah.
But the fact that he was supposed to go to church with me the very next morning, and that happened, that right there showed me what the devil can do, what he can take from us, you know, any minute. Any moment. I mean, it don't take, you know, some big act of Congress or something for something to happen. I mean, it can happen just like that. I mean, he was gone, you know. But I've got a lot of good memories of him. I've got a picture of him in my Bible over there. But that right there, if you don't believe in what God can do for you, and I'm not asking you to believe, I'm not saying, I don't want nobody to take this the wrong way. I'm trying to say if you don't believe what God can do for you, at least look at what the devil can do to you and know that there's a better way. You know, if you're not walking with the Lord, if you don't, and the best way I explained this, I explained it to one of my girls, Madison, sitting right back there. I said, honey, that is just proof that if you don't involve God in your life, you know, if you totally are away from God, don't involve Him in your life, don't involve Him in your household in no kind of way, that leaves every door and window you got in that house open for the devil to come in and have his way. You know?
It does.
And I remember standing in my shower that morning after, because we came to church that morning. I told the girls they didn't want to come. They was like, well, why are we going? And I said, well, you know, if we don't go, then, you know, the devil's going to win.
Yeah.
Because Tyler was supposed to come,
Yeah.
you know. So we got ready, but I remember standing in my shower that morning and squalling like I haven't in years.
Yeah.
And just crying and begging God not to take, you know, another one of my kids like that. You know, and I told him, I said, I will do everything you tell me. I'll be obedient. Whatever you tell me I've got to do, you know, I'll do that. But spare my kids.
Yeah.
Don't take them from me like that, you know. And he has just blessed me continuously over and over, you know. But I tell everybody, you know, when Tyler done that, there was, and I think I told y'all before, there was several people that Tyler was an organ donor. And God used that to help several people, you know. So, you know, I mean, there's part of Tyler still walking around, you know. And I don't take it the wrong way, I didn't tell y'all about Tyler and what happened for anything to benefit me about anything I've done, because Lord knows I've done enough stuff that I should be more than ashamed of to cover any one good thing I've done probably. But I told y'all that because that is just showing what God can do.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
I never in my life thought I'd be doing what I done in that bedroom that morning, but God was right there with me holding my hand.
Amen.
You know, I couldn't have done it had I not been in church already. There's no way I could have done it. You know? But God has been good to me. He's been good to my family.
Yes, he has.
I owe Him, you know, I owe everybody in this church for being the friends they've become and family they've become. What else was I going to tell you? I done getting old, I done forgot. Oh,
Done good. Done good.
there's a feeling you get that I have gotten, and I've realized it the last few weeks. Before, when I got saved and I was in church, I never was strong enough in my walk to get to where I'm at now. But God has put something right in here in my heart that has told me the devil ain't got a hold on me anymore.
Amen.
In no kind of way.
Praise the Lord.
You know.
Amen.
But anyway, that's about all I got to say about that.
Amen.
But praise God and thank y'all for listening.